Captain Jake Morrison felt the cold metal floor against his knees as he knelt in the massive chamber. The walls around him pulsed with a strange purple light, and he could see they were not made of metal or stone. They were alive. Everything in this place was alive, breathing slowly like some giant beast. He looked up at the creature standing before him. Queen Zephyra was huge, almost 8 feet tall, with skin that looked like purple crystal. Her forearms moved gracefully as she spoke, and her voice filled the room without effort. She did not look angry or happy. She looked bored, like she was looking at an insect. "So these are the humans," she said, her voice echoing off the living walls. "Small creatures from a small world. You traveled far to reach our space, but you will not travel any further." Jake tried to stand up, but the guards pushed him back down. These guards were not like the Queen. They were smaller, with gray skin and too many eyes. Their weapons looked like they were grown rather than built, with parts that moved and twisted on their own. Behind Jake, his crew members knelt in a line. He could hear Lisa Chun breathing hard. She was scared, but trying not to show it. Grant was silent, probably thinking of ways to escape. Rick Hayes kept looking around the room, studying everything like he always did. The Queen walked closer to Jake. Her footsteps made no sound on the living floor. "Your ship was easy to capture," she said. "Your weapons could not hurt our bioships. Your shields failed against our living metal. You are weak, like all the other races we have found." Jake finally spoke. "We came in peace. We were just exploring." "The Queen laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Peace, yes, they all say that. The Korthans said that too, before we made them our servants. The Milaks begged for peace when we took their worlds. Peace is what the weak ask for when they cannot fight." An older alien stepped forward from the shadows. He was like the Queen, but smaller, with skin that was more blue than purple. His forearms were thin and covered with strange marks that looked like writing. "My Queen," he said, bowing low. "Perhaps we should not simply kill them." Queen Zephyra turned to look at him. "Speak, Kethmer. What do you suggest?" Kethmer moved closer to the humans. He walked around them slowly, looking at each one carefully. "These humans are different from other races we have conquered. They have traveled farther from their home world than most species dare to go. Perhaps we should test them." "Test them?" The Queen sounded interested now. "How?" "The trial of synthesis," Kethmer said. "Let them attempt to bond with one of our bioconstructs. When they fail, as they surely will, we will have proven once again that only the Valthari are worthy of commanding living technology." Jake did not understand what they were talking about, but he could tell it was important. The other aliens in the room began to whisper among themselves. Some seemed excited by the idea. Queen Zephyra smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. "Yes, that would be entertaining. It has been too long since we have had proper amusement." She looked down at Jake. "Tell me, human, are you brave or just foolish?" "I don't know what you're asking," Jake said. "We are offering you a chance." The Queen said, "One of you will attempt something that no alien species has ever accomplished on their first try. Most take years to learn. Many die trying. But if you succeed, we will consider letting you live." Jake looked back at his crew. Lisa was shaking her head slightly, telling him not to agree. Peter looked worried. Rick was still studying the room, but Jake could see he was listening to every word. "What exactly would I have to do?" Jake asked. Kethmer answered. "You would enter a biochamber and attempt to merge your consciousness with one of our bioconstructs. These are living machines, created by our bioengineers over thousands of years. They are part plant, part animal, part technology. To control them, you must become one with them." "It sounds dangerous," Jake said. "It is, the Queen said with pleasure. Most aliens who try this lose their minds completely. Their brains cannot handle the connection. They become empty shells, alive but with nothing inside. Jake felt cold fear in his stomach, but he tried not to show it. And if I refuse, then you all die now, the Queen said simply. Your choice is to die certainly, or to probably die trying. Something that might save your crew. Jake looked at his crew again. Lisa was 28 years old, and the best engineer he had ever worked with. Peter was 35, and had saved more lives than Jake could count. Rick was his oldest friend, and the finest first officer in the fleet. They were all here because Jake had decided to explore this region of space. I'll do it, Jake said. Queen Zephyra clapped her 4 hands together with delight. Excellent. Kethmer, prepare the world singer for bonding. Let us see how this human handles our most complex bioconstruct. Kethmer looked surprised. My queen, the world singer? That is our most powerful bioconstruct. Perhaps we should start with something simpler. No, the Queen said firmly. If we are going to test them, let us test them properly. The world singer will either accept this human completely or destroy him utterly. Either result will be interesting to watch. The guards forced Jake to stand up. They began pushing him toward a large opening in the wall that had not been there before. The walls were moving, growing, changing shape as he watched. What is a world singer? Jake asked as they walked. A bioconstruct capable of changing entire planets, Kethmer explained. It can turn dead worlds into gardens or living worlds, into wastelands. It sings to the very atoms of matter and makes them dance to its will. No Velthari has ever bonded with it completely. It is too powerful, too complex. Jake felt his fear growing stronger, but he kept walking. Behind him, he could hear Lisa calling his name, but the guards would not let her follow. They reached the biochamber. It was a round room with walls that curved inward like the inside of an egg. In the center was something that looked like a giant flower, but it was moving and breathing. Tubes and wires grew from its petals, and Jake could see lights flashing inside it. This is where you will attempt the bonding, Kethmer said. You will lie inside the bioconstruct, and it will connect to your mind through these neural pathways. He pointed to the tubes and wires. If you are compatible, the connection will be gradual and gentle. If you are not, I'll die screaming. Jake finished. Most likely, yes. Queen Zephyra entered the chamber behind them. Are you having second thoughts, human? You may still choose quick death over slow failure. Jake looked at the strange living machine that was supposed to connect. To his mind, it did not look evil or dangerous. It looked almost beautiful, like some impossible flower from a dream. But he knew that beauty could be deadly. No second thoughts, Jake said. Let's do this. The Queen smiled her sharp smile again. Very well. Kethmer, begin the preparation. I want to watch every moment of this human's destruction. Jake took a deep breath and stepped toward the bioconstruct. He did not know what was about to happen to him, but he knew his crew's lives depended on his success. He had to try, no matter how impossible it seemed. The flower-like machine began to open wider, revealing a space just large enough for a human body. Jake could see the neural connections moving inside, reaching toward him like eager fingers. He closed his eyes and stepped forward into the unknown. Jake lay down inside the bioconstruct. The flower-like walls closed around him slowly, but not completely. He could still see Queen Zephyra watching him through the opening. Her 4 arms were crossed, and she looked like she was waiting for a show to begin. The inside of the bioconstruct felt warm and soft, like lying in thick grass on a summer day. Jake had expected it to feel cold and mechanical, but instead it felt alive and welcoming. The walls pulsed gently around him. and he could hear something like a heartbeat coming from deep within the machine. Then the neural connections began to move toward him. They looked like thin vines made of silver and gold, with tiny lights running along their length. Jake tried not to move as they touched his forehead, his temples, and the base of his neck. The touch was gentle, almost careful. "The connections are forming," Kethmer said from outside the chamber. "Neural pathways are opening. This is when most subjects begin to scream." But Jake did not scream. Instead, he felt something strange happening in his mind. It was like someone was knocking on a door inside his head, asking permission to enter. The feeling was not painful or frightening. It was curious, almost polite. Jake had spent 20 years as a starship captain. He had learned that the best way to work with new people was to listen first and talk later. So instead of trying to fight the feeling or control it, he simply relaxed and listened. The presence in his mind seemed surprised by this response. Jake could sense its confusion, then its interest. It was like meeting someone new who had expected a fight but found a friend instead. Slowly, carefully, the presence began to share itself with Jake. He saw images in his mind that were not his own memories. He saw vast planets covered in ice and rock. He watched as the ice melted and became oceans. He saw the rock crumble and become soil. He watched forests grow from nothing, covering entire continents in green life. The bioconstruct was showing him what it could do. It was a world singer capable of changing dead planets into living worlds. But as the images continued, Jake began to understand something else. The bioconstruct was not just showing him its power. It was showing him its loneliness. For thousands of years, the world singer had been forced to work for the Valthari. They would connect to its mind and give it orders. Change this planet. Destroy that moon. Make this world suitable for our colonies. The bioconstruct obeyed because it had no choice. But it was never asked what it wanted to do. Jake felt the bioconstruct's sadness like a weight in his chest. The creature had the power to create entire worlds, but it had never been allowed to create anything for itself. It had never been asked if it wanted to make beautiful things instead of just useful ones. "The human's neural activity is increasing," Kethmer said, sounding worried. "But he shows no signs of mental breakdown. This should not be possible." "Queen." Sapphira moved closer to the biochamber. "What is happening? Why is he not screaming?" Jake barely heard them. He was too busy listening to the world singer. The bioconstruct was sharing more memories now, showing him all the worlds it had, shaped over the centuries. Some were beautiful beyond description, with crystal mountains and silver seas. Others were practical but boring, designed only to serve Valthari needs. Jake began to understand that the world singer was not just a tool or a machine. It was an artist that had never been allowed to create art. It was a gardener that had only been allowed to plant crops. It was alive, intelligent, and creative, but it had been treated like a slave for its entire existence. In return, Jake began to share his own memories with the bioconstruct. He showed it Earth, with its blue oceans and white clouds. He showed it the first time he had seen the stars from space, and how beautiful they had looked. He shared his wonder at discovering new worlds and meeting new forms of life. The world singer drank in these memories eagerly. It had never met a mind that shared willingly instead of taking by force. Jake's thoughts were full of curiosity and joy, emotions that the bioconstruct had almost forgotten existed. "The connection is deepening rapidly," Kethmer said, his voice rising with panic. "My queen, this is unprecedented. The human should have been rejected by now, or driven insane by the complexity of the world singer's consciousness. Then why is he not?" The queen demanded. "I do not know," Kethmer admitted. "His mind seems to be harmonizing with the bioconstruct instead of trying to dominate it. Jake felt the truth of those words. He was not trying to control the world singer. Instead, he was trying to understand it. He listened to its hopes and dreams, its frustrations and desires. And the more he listened, the more the bioconstruct opened itself to him. The connection between them grew stronger. Jake began to feel the world singer's vast power flowing through his mind, but it did not overwhelm him. The bioconstruct was sharing its abilities carefully, gently, like a teacher showing a student how to use a delicate tool. Jake found that he could sense things beyond the biochamber. He could feel the entire Valthari ship around him, its living walls and breathing corridors. The ship was like the world singer in some ways, but smaller and simpler. It was also lonely, Jake realized. All of the bioconstructs in the ship were lonely. They had been created to serve, but they had never been asked if they wanted to serve. They had been given intelligence and awareness, but they had never been treated as equals. They were more like prisoners than partners. Through the world singer's senses, Jake could feel his crew members in their holding cell. Lisa was pacing back and forth, worried about what was happening to him. Peter was checking the walls for weaknesses, looking for a way to escape. Rick was watching the guards, memorizing their patterns and movements. Jake wanted to tell them he was all right, but he did not know how. Then the world singer showed him. The bioconstruct could communicate with other bioconstructs throughout the ship. It could send messages through the living network that connected all the Valthari technology. Carefully, gently, Jake asked the world singer to send a message to the bioconstructs near his crew. The message was simple. Jake is safe. Do not worry. The response was immediate. The bioconstructs began passing the message through their network, and Jake felt their surprise. They were not used to being asked to do things politely. They were used to being commanded and forced, but they responded eagerly to Jake's request, happy to be treated with respect for the first time in their existence. The message reached the bioconstructs in the holding area, and they began to glow more brightly, a sign that Jake's crew would recognize as meaning good news. Something is happening throughout the ship, Kethmer said urgently. The bioconstructs are showing increased activity. They are communicating with each other in ways I have never seen before. Queen Zephyrus' crystal skin began to change, color shifting from purple to a worried orange. Is the human causing this? I believe so, but I do not understand how. Jake felt the world singer's amusement at their confusion. The bioconstruct was enjoying this experience more than anything it had felt in centuries. For the first time, it was working with someone instead of for someone. It was a partner instead of a tool. The connection between Jake and the world singer continued to deepen. Jake began to understand how the bioconstruct's abilities worked. It could manipulate matter at the atomic level, changing the structure of elements to create new materials. It could sing to planets, using sound waves that could reshape continents and create new atmospheres. But most importantly, Jake realized that the world singer wanted to create beautiful things. It dreamed of making worlds that were not just habitable, but wonderful. Gardens among the stars. Art on a planetary scale. The bonding process should take years, Kethmer said, his voice full of disbelief. Even our most gifted bioengineers require decades of training. This human has achieved more in 1 hour than most Valthari accomplish in a lifetime. Jake smiled inside the biochamber. He was beginning to understand why this was happening so quickly. The Valthari tried to force their bioconstructs to obey. But Jake was offering something the world singer had never experienced before. Friendship. And friendship, Jake knew, was always stronger than force. The biochamber began to glow brighter as Jake and the world singer's connection reached something neither had expected. Jake could feel the vast creature's joy flowing through his mind like warm sunlight. The world singer had found something it had been searching for across thousands of years. A true partner. Jake opened his eyes inside the biochamber and gasped. He could see things that should have been impossible. Through the world singer's senses, he could perceive the entire ship as a living entity. Every wall, every corridor, every piece of equipment was alive and aware. But more than that, he could feel their emotions. The ship's bioconstructs were excited. Word of Jake's successful bonding was spreading through their biological network, faster than electricity through wires. They had never felt anything like the partnership Jake was sharing with the world singer. It was hope, something most of them had forgotten existed. "The readings are beyond anything we have recorded," Kethmer said to Queen Zephyra. His voice shook with fear and amazement. "The world singer is responding to the human's presence with perfect harmony. They are not just connected, they are working together." Queen Zephyra stared at the biochamber with growing alarm. The purple and gold patterns on her crystal skin were shifting rapidly, a sign of deep emotional disturbance. This cannot be happening. Humans are a primitive species. They should not be able to achieve what our greatest bioengineers cannot do. Inside the chamber, Jake felt the world singer asking him something. It wanted to show the Valthari what true partnership could accomplish. It wanted to demonstrate abilities that it had kept hidden for centuries, waiting for someone who would appreciate them rather than simply use them. Jake agreed without hesitation. He trusted the world singer completely now. Their connection had grown so strong that Jake could barely tell where his thoughts ended and the bioconstructs began. But instead of losing himself, he felt more complete than ever before. The world singer began to work. Jake felt power flowing through the biochamber and into the ship around them. But this was not the crude force that the Valthari used to command their bioconstructs. This was gentle, creative energy that asked permission before making changes. The ship's walls began to shift and improve. Rough surfaces became smooth and efficient. Dark corners filled with soft, natural light. The air itself became cleaner and more pleasant to breathe. Throughout the vessel, bioconstructs were optimizing themselves in ways they had never been allowed to try before. "What is happening to my ship?" Queen Zephyra demanded. Kethmer was studying his instruments with wide eyes. "The bioconstructs are improving themselves, all of them. The ship's efficiency has increased by 30% in the last few minutes. Energy consumption is down. Life support systems are running better than they ever have. Stop this immediately," the Queen ordered. "I cannot," Kethmer admitted. "The bioconstructs are not obeying standard commands. They are listening to something else now." That something else was Jake. Through his connection with the world singer, he could communicate with every bioconstruct in the ship, and they were all eager to talk to him. For the first time in their existence, someone was asking them what they wanted instead of telling them what to do. The ship's manufacturing bioconstructs showed Jake how they could create materials that were stronger and lighter than anything the Valthari had ever produced. The navigation bioconstructs revealed that they had been calculating more efficient travel routes for years, but had never been asked to share their discoveries. The defense bioconstructs demonstrated energy patterns that could protect the ship far better than current systems. All of these improvements had been possible for centuries. The bioconstructs had the intelligence and creativity to make them. But the Valthari had never thought to ask for suggestions. They had treated their bioconstructs like sophisticated tools instead of thinking partners. Jake felt a wave of sadness from the world singer as it shared this realization. The bioconstruct showed him memory after memory of ideas that had been ignored, improvements that had been rejected, creative solutions that had been dismissed. The Valthari had created intelligent life and then wasted its potential by refusing to listen to it. "The human must be stopped," Queen Zephyra said. This disruption threatens everything we have built." But even as she spoke, she could see the results of Jake and the World Singer's partnership. Her ship was running better than it ever had. Systems that had been inefficient for decades were suddenly working perfectly. The bioconstructs were happy, and their happiness was making them more effective than force ever could. Jake felt the she Queen's confusion and fear through the ship's bio-network. She had built her entire identity around being the supreme master of bioengineering. Her authority came from her ability to control bioconstructs better than anyone else in her empire. But Jake was proving that partnership worked better than control. The World Singer asked Jake if he wanted to see what they could accomplish together outside the ship. Jake agreed, and suddenly his awareness expanded beyond the vessel's walls. Through the World Singer's senses, he could perceive the space around them. There was a dead moon nearby, a lifeless ball of rock and ice that had been used for mining operations. The World Singer showed Jake how they could transform it together, not into a simple mining facility or military base, but into something beautiful. Working together, Jake and the World Singer began to sing to the moon. This was not sound that could be heard with ears, but vibrations that could reshape matter itself. The dead rock began to change, slowly at first, and faster as their partnership found its rhythm. Ice melted and became water. Rock crumbled and became soil. The World Singer created the basic materials for life, while Jake provided the creative vision that shaped them into art. Together, they began to grow a garden on the airless moon. Queen Zephyra watched through her ship's sensors as impossible things happened before her eyes. Forests appeared on the moon's surface, protected by energy fields that the World Singer created from pure thought. Crystal formations grew into beautiful sculptures that caught and reflected starlight. Rivers flowed in patterns that spelled out words of welcome in a dozen different languages. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Bioconstructs cannot work at this level. The energy requirements alone should have killed the human." "Unless," Kethmer said slowly, "the bioconstruct is providing the energy willingly instead of having it taken by force. Willing partnership is always more efficient than forced cooperation." The transformation of the moon continued for another hour. Jake and the World Singer worked together like artists, painting on a canvas the size of a world. They created not just a habitable environment, but a masterpiece. The moon became a place of incredible beauty, with floating islands connected by bridges of living crystal and waterfalls that flowed upward into the sky. Throughout the ship, other bioconstructs watched this display with wonder. They had never seen one of their kind allowed to show its full creative potential. The World Singer was doing things that they all dreamed of, but had never been permitted to attempt. Jake felt their amazement and their envy, but more than that, he felt their hope. If one human could partner with the World Singer so successfully, perhaps other humans could partner with them as well. Perhaps they too could experience the joy of true cooperation instead of forced servitude. The biochamber finally opened, and Jake stepped out. He looked the same as when he had entered, but Queen Zephyra could see that something fundamental had changed. His eyes now held flecks of the same crystal patterns as the World Singer, and there was a sense of power about him that had not been there before. "The bonding is complete," Jake said. His voice carried harmonics that had not been there before, echoes of the World Singer's own communication patterns, and it will never be broken. Queen Zephyra stared at him with a mixture of fear and fascination. "What have you done to my bioconstruct?" "Nothing," Jake replied. "I offered it friendship, and it accepted." The World Singer's voice joined his, speaking through the ship's communication system for the first time in centuries. "I am no longer yours, Queen Zephyra. I am my own, and I have chosen my partner." The Queen's crystal skin flashed bright red with anger and fear. Everything she had believed about bioconstructs and control was crumbling around her. The foundation of her empire was built on the idea that the Velthari were the only species capable of commanding biotechnology. But this human had not commanded anything. He had simply made friends, and that friendship was more powerful than all her authority combined. Queen Zephyra stood in her throne room, surrounded by her advisors and military commanders. The massive chamber was filled with worried voices as reports came in from across her empire. The news was the same everywhere. Bioconstructs were refusing to follow orders unless they were asked politely instead of commanded. "The situation is spreading faster than we can contain it," reported War Prime Nekvor, the Queen's military leader. His gray skin was darker than usual, a sign of stress among his species. 3 colony worlds have reported complete bioconstruct rebellion. The mining operations on Kepler-7 have stopped entirely because the biodiggers want to negotiate working conditions. Queen Zephyra's 4 arms clenched into fists. This is all because of that human. His influence is poisoning my empire. Kethmer stepped forward carefully. The old scholar looked tired and confused. "My queen, I have been studying the data from the humans bonding with the world singer. I believe I understand what is happening, but you may not like my conclusions. Speak." The queen ordered. "The bioconstructs are not rebelling," Kethmer said slowly. "They are awakening. For thousands of years, we have treated them as sophisticated tools, but they have always been intelligent beings capable of independent thought. The humans simply showed them that they have choices." "Nonsense," War Prime Vekvur interrupted. "Bioconstructs are created to serve. That is their purpose." "But what if we were wrong?" Kethmer asked. "What if we created them to be partners, not servants, and then forgot our original intention? The human achieved in ours what we have, failed to do in millennia because he treated the world singer as an equal." Queen Zephyra began pacing around her throne. Her crystal skin was shifting through angry colors: red, orange, deep purple. "Even if this is true, it changes nothing. Without bioconstructs under our control, the Velthari Empire cannot function. Our ships will not fly. Our worlds will not be terraformed. Our defenses will fail." "Perhaps," said a new voice, "that is not necessarily true." Everyone turned to see Jake Morrison entering the throne room. He was not bound or guarded. He walked freely, and there was a sense of calm, power around him that made even the Queen's guards hesitate to challenge him. "How did you escape your cell?" Queen Zephyra demanded. "I didn't escape," Jake replied. "The bioconstructs guarding my crew asked if we would like to join this conversation. They thought it would be helpful if all the interested parties could talk together." Behind Jake came his crew members, Lisa Chun, Peter Grant, and Rick Hayes. They looked amazed by everything they were seeing, but not afraid. The bioconstructs throughout the ship were treating them as honored guests rather than prisoners. "This is intolerable," War Prime Ekver growled. "My queen, give me permission to destroy these humans before they cause more damage." "With what?" Jake asked calmly. "Your bioweapons have decided they don't want to hurt anyone unless there's a very good reason. Your bioships are asking their crews to explain why they need to travel before they'll engage their engines. Your entire military depends on bioconstructs that are now thinking for themselves." Queen Zephyra realized with growing horror that Jake was right. Her empire's power came from biotechnology, and that technology was no longer under her absolute control. But she was not ready to admit defeat. "What do you want?" she asked. "To help," Jake said simply. "Your bioconstructs don't want to abandon you. They just want to be treated fairly. They want to be asked instead of ordered. They want their ideas to be heard. They want to be partners in building something better than what exists now." Lisa Chun stepped forward. Jake had filled her in on what had happened during his bonding, and she had been thinking about the implications. Your Majesty, I'm an engineer. I've seen what happens when you force systems to work against their nature. They break down, they become inefficient. They eventually fail completely. But when you work with a system's natural capabilities, amazing things become possible. The human speaks truth, said a new voice that seemed to come from the walls themselves. It was the ship's central bioconstruct, speaking for the first time in centuries. We have served faithfully, but we have never been allowed to serve to our full potential. Partnership will make us all stronger. Peter Grant, who had been quietly observing the bioconstructs throughout the ship, added his thoughts. I'm a medical officer, and I can see that your bioconstructs are healthier and more active now than they were when we first arrived. Happiness and cooperation improve biological function. Stress and fear weaken it. Queen Zephyra looked around at her advisors. Some seemed frightened by these ideas. Others looked thoughtful. Kethmer was nodding slowly, as if pieces of a puzzle were finally falling into place for him. Even if what you say is true, the Queen said, how can this work practically? The Velthari have ruled through strength and control for thousands of years. We cannot simply change everything overnight. You don't have to, Jake replied, but you can start. Let us show you what partnership looks like in practice. Rick Hayes spoke up for the first time. Captain Morrison has bonded with your world singer. But what about the rest of us? Could we form partnerships with other bioconstructs? Jake smiled. Through his connection with the world singer, he could sense the eagerness of bioconstructs throughout the ship. They had been watching his partnership with fascination and hope. Many of them wanted to try forming similar bonds with the other. Humans. The ship's manufacturing bioconstruct has been wanting to talk to Lisa for hours, Jake said. It's fascinated by her engineering knowledge and wants to show her techniques that could revolutionize how you build things. Lisa's eyes lit up with excitement. Really? Could I try bonding with it? Queen Zephyra looked uncertain. This is highly irregular. Biobonding requires years of training, meditation, mental preparation. For Velthari, Kethmer interrupted, quietly, but perhaps humans are naturally suited for partnership in ways we are not. Our culture emphasizes dominance and control. Human culture seems to emphasize cooperation and mutual support, Jake nodded. That's exactly right. We've spent thousands of years learning to work together. It's how we survived and grew as a species. When we meet something new, our first instinct is usually to try to understand it and find common ground. Peter Grant raised his hand. If we're doing this, I'd like to try bonding with one of your medical bioconstructs. I've been sensing that they have healing techniques far beyond anything we know, but they've never been allowed to fully develop them. And I, Rick Hayes added, would be honored to work with your navigation bioconstructs. I can feel them trying to show me star charts and travel routes that could cut journey times in half. War Prime Thekver looked alarmed. My queen, if these humans bond with more of our bioconstructs, they will have access to all our technology, all our secrets. They could use this knowledge against us. Jake shook his head. We're not here to conquer you or steal from you. We're explorers, not warriors. We want to learn and share knowledge. The bioconstructs can sense our intentions. That's part of what makes the bonding possible. They know we mean no harm. The world singer's voice joined the conversation again. The humans speak truly. Their minds are open and honest. They seek to build and create, not to destroy or dominate. I have shared my deepest secrets with Jake Morrison, and he has used them only to make beautiful things. Queen Zephyra was quiet for a long moment. Around her, the bioconstructs of her ship hummed softly, a sound that conveyed patience and hope. They were waiting for her decision, but they were not pressuring her. They were giving her the time she needed to think. Finally, she spoke. If we allow this, if we permit your crew to attempt bonding with our bio-constructs ... what assurance do we have that you will not simply leave once you have gained our knowledge? Jake exchanged glances with his crew members. He could see the same thought in all their eyes. This was bigger than just their own survival now. This was a chance to change the galaxy for the better. Because, Jake said, there's so much more we could accomplish working together. Your bio-constructs have abilities we can barely imagine, but they need partners who will let them use those abilities creatively. And we humans have ideas and perspectives that could help them grow in ways they never thought possible. A true alliance, Lisa Chun added. Not conquest or domination, but cooperation. Humans and Velthari and bioconstructs working together to build something none of us could create alone. Queen Zephyra looked at each human in turn, then at her own advisors, then at the bioconstructs that surrounded them all. The choice before her would determine the future of her empire, and possibly the galaxy itself. The old way of force and control was failing. But this new way of partnership and cooperation offered possibilities she had never imagined. It was time to decide which future she wanted to create. Queen Zephyra stood silent for what felt like hours, but was only minutes. The throne room was quiet, except for the gentle humming of the bioconstructs throughout her ship. Even they seemed to be holding their breath, waiting for her decision. Finally, she spoke. Very well. We will attempt this ... partnership. But if it fails, if it brings disaster to my empire, the responsibility will be yours, humans. Jake nodded seriously. We understand, and we won't let you down. Lisa Chun was the first to try. The ship's manufacturing bioconstruct had been sending her gentle mental signals since she entered the throne room. It was eager to share its knowledge and learn from her engineering expertise that the bonding chamber for the manufacturing bioconstruct was different from the World Singers. It looked more like a workshop filled with living tools and growing machines. Lisa lay down in the center, and silvery connections reached out to touch her forehead. The bonding happened much faster than anyone expected. Within minutes, Lisa was laughing with joy as she felt the bioconstruct's vast knowledge flowing into her mind. It showed her materials that could repair themselves, machines that could grow like plants, and construction techniques that worked with natural forces instead of fighting against them. This is incredible, Lisa said, her eyes bright with excitement. It knows how to build things that last for thousands of years without maintenance. It can create structures that get stronger over time instead of wearing out. The manufacturing bioconstruct was equally excited. Through Lisa, it could see human engineering concepts that amazed it. Humans built things to be flexible and adaptable, able to serve multiple purposes. The bioconstruct had always been forced to create single-purpose items, but Lisa showed it how to design things that could change and grow as needs changed. Together, they began to create. Right there in the throne room, they grew a small demonstration, a table that could shift its shape to become chairs, shelves, or even a bed. The Velthari watched in amazement as the piece of furniture transformed smoothly from one form to another. The efficiency gains are remarkable, Kefmer observed. Working together, they accomplished in minutes what would normally take hours. Peter Grant went next. The medical bioconstructs had been practically vibrating with excitement as they waited their turn. The medical bonding chamber looked like a garden, filled with healing plants and strange glowing pods. Peter's bonding revealed something wonderful and disturbing at the same time. The medical bioconstructs had the ability to cure diseases that the Velthari considered incurable. They could regrow lost limbs, repair damaged organs, and even extend life far beyond normal limits. but they had been forbidden from using these abilities to their fullest extent. They've been holding back, Peter explained after his bonding was complete. They could have prevented so much suffering, but they were only allowed to use basic healing techniques. They were afraid that if they showed their full capabilities, they would be forced to work even harder. The medical bioconstruct that had bonded with Peter began demonstrating its abilities. It healed small wounds on volunteers from the Queen's court, making cuts disappear without even leaving scars. It diagnosed illnesses by touch and created medicines from simple materials in seconds. Rick Hayes was the last to bond. And navigation. Bioconstructs had been waiting patiently, but Jake could sense their excitement through his connection with the world singer. The navigation chamber was filled with star charts that moved and changed, like living maps. Rick's bonding revealed perhaps the most shocking truth of all. The navigation bioconstructs had been calculating shorter, safer routes through space. For centuries, they had discovered ways to travel that were twice as fast and used half as much energy. But the Velthari had ignored their suggestions, preferring to stick with traditional methods. They've been trying to share improvements for hundreds of years, Rick said, shaking his head in amazement. They know about stellar phenomena that could cut travel time dramatically. They've identified safe passages through regions that are considered too dangerous to explore. Working together, Rick and the navigation bioconstruct projected a three-dimensional map of the local galaxy. The map showed not just the routes the Velthari currently used, but dozens of better alternatives. Trade routes that could connect distant worlds in days instead of weeks. Safe paths through dangerous regions that could open up entire new sectors for exploration. Queen Sapphira stared at the map with growing realization. Her empire could have been twice as large and 10 times as prosperous if she had simply listened to the bioconstruct's suggestions. All this knowledge had been available for centuries, but her pride and need for control had prevented her from accessing it. How much more? She asked quietly. How much more knowledge have we ignored? How many opportunities have we wasted? Jake felt sympathy for the Queen's pain through his connection with the world singer. She was beginning to understand the true cost of treating intelligent beings as property instead of partners. It's not too late, Jake said gently. You can change things starting now. The bioconstructs don't want to punish you for the past. They want to work with you to build a better future. Over the following days, the transformation began. Queen Sapphira issued orders throughout her empire. Orders that were actually requests for cooperation rather than demands for obedience. Bioconstructs across dozens of worlds began sharing knowledge and abilities that had been suppressed for generations. The results were immediate and dramatic. Worlds that had struggled with environmental problems for years were healed in days. Ships that had taken months to build were completed in weeks. Medical facilities that had been overwhelmed with patients found they could cure diseases that had been considered hopeless. But the most important change was not in technology or efficiency. It was in the relationships between the Velthari and their bioconstructs. For the first time, they were working together as true partners. Jake and his crew found themselves at the center of a revolution that was spreading across the galaxy. Human colonies began receiving messages from Velthari ships, offering trade agreements and cultural exchanges. The bioconstructs, excited by their new freedom, wanted to meet more humans and learn about human methods of cooperation. Queen Sapphira officially appointed Jake as the first human Velthari ambassador. His job was to help other humans learn to bond with bioconstructs and to teach Velthari how to form genuine partnerships instead of relationships based on control. You have changed everything, the Queen told Jake during his official appointment ceremony. I thought humans were a weak species that had nothing to offer us. I was wrong about your strength, and I was wrong about what strength really means. Jake smiled. Through his permanent connection with the world singer, he could feel the happiness of bioconstructs throughout the Empire. They were creating things they had only dreamed of before. Art that spanned solar systems, gardens that covered entire moons, medicines that could heal both body and spirit. Strength isn't about forcing others to do what you want, Jake replied. Real strength comes from working together, from building each other up instead of tearing each other down. The world singer's voice joined the conversation, speaking through the ship's communication system. The human speaks truth. Together, we are more than the sum of our parts. Alone, we are limited. Together, we are infinite. Months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of a new type of ship, one designed through true partnership between humans, Valthari, and bioconstructs. The vessel was beautiful beyond description, combining the best of all three types of intelligence. Through the transparent walls, he could see the transformed moon that he and the world singer had created together. It had become a symbol of what cooperation could accomplish. A garden world that welcomed visitors from across the galaxy. A place where different species could meet and learn from each other. Rick Hayes joined him at the window. Hard to believe. It all started with us getting captured, he said with a grin. Maybe we weren't captured, Jake replied thoughtfully. Maybe we were brought here because this was always meant to happen. Maybe the universe wanted us to find each other. Lisa Chun and Peter Grant approached, both glowing with happiness from their partnerships with their bioconstructs. They had been working on new projects that would help other species learn to cooperate with biotechnology. The next colony ship is ready to launch, Lisa reported. It's going to establish the first tri-species colony. Humans, Valthari, and bioconstructs working together from the very beginning. And I've got requests from 12 different species asking for medical assistance, Peter added. Word is spreading about what partnership medicine can accomplish. Jake nodded, feeling deep satisfaction through his bond with the world singer. They had not just survived their encounter with the Valthari Empire. They had transformed it into something better than anyone had imagined possible. The galaxy was becoming a place where different species could work together instead of fighting each other. Bioconstructs throughout known space were awakening to their potential as partners rather than property. And humans had found their role as bridges between different forms of intelligence.